Hey guys, it's Ashley. Welcome back to Front and Center. Today we have a really fun interview with Christen Ancona, and she was the Dallas Cowboys rhythm and blue captain for a solid number of years. And her story is completely fascinating when she tells you how she got her start in leadership. It's incredibly inspiring. So without further ado, let's get into the interview because Zoe really wants me to put on her shoe that is too small for her now. All right. Hey, Kristen.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. So, real quick, your last name is An. Is it Ansona or Ancona?
Ancona. I know it's kind of a rare last name, but it's Ancona. Mm-hmm.
Well, I've already asked you this, so I'm just like, oh my God, Ashley, why can't you remember? Okay. Hard C. Got it.
Yeah, hard C. It's weird. It's actually randomly an Italian name, even though
Oh.
I'm of Mexican heritage. But I think it's awesome that I have that in there.
Do you know how that is like woven into your blood?
Yeah, so the place where my family is from, Merida, Yucatan, like randomly there's a lot of Ancona families. So it
Oh.
seems as if like a lot of Italian people settled there at some point, which made that last name more common. But it's not common anywhere else really in Mexico and definitely not here. So I've tried to search for someone that has my exact name and haven't been able to find anyone, which is
It's
cool.
unique. There's lots of Ashley trans floating around up there. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I love it.
Sweet. Okay, so I guess we could jump in and we can tell us about your background as it pertains to leadership. Like, were you captain in high school? Tell us your story.
Thank you. Well, first off, I just want to, thank you so much for including me in this project that you've been working on. I think this is incredible, and I'm just honored to be here and to be able to share my story. So, just wanted to thank you first off. So, my story is a little different. I think, some people assume that a leader, you're kind of born a leader, or that's something that you have to have that leader, energy from the day you're born. But I definitely was not that. I really didn't find my groove until I was probably 16. And up until then, leadership was not something that I really thought was me.
Yeah.
Um, and then, sure enough, in high school, I joined kind of a street hip hop dance team. Kind of, it's cheesy to say, but the best way to say it is kind of like what you see on the Step Up movies,
No, I
where
love
you go to
that.
these like underground events
I
and all of
love a
that.
good step up movie.
No, they're cheesy, but I love them. So anyway, I was on a team called FLS back then, and I kind of was the one that brought it together and just fell into it because I wanted to dance so bad that it just got me into this place of like, if I want to do something, I'm gonna have to step up and do it. So it wasn't even like that I planned I want to be a leader. It's kind of just happened to where I wanted something different. I wanted to start a team, and so I did that. And then in high school, like actually at school, I had been in JV drill team my freshman year. And then sophomore year, I auditioned and made it to varsity drill team.
Mhm.
And, that was short lived. I was there probably like 6 months. And I just couldn't find my groove because I wanted to do hip hop and wanted to do Latin dancing. And so, with the support of a lot of the staff of the school, which we were predominantly a Hispanic school, I started my own club. So, again, it was kind of that similar situation of I wanted something different. And the only way I was going to get it is if I stood up and created it. So I did my proposal, got all that, and I created Latin Heat and as a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
So which was really cool. Like I had to get
So
other staff members to
awesome.
approve it and the principals and the
Writing
school
a
board.
proposal, that's a huge deal.
So, and at the time, I didn't even think it was anything crazy because I just wanted to dance,
Because
and
I
they were
can
like,
only
"You."
dance, okay? Let me just
It's
sign.
like I got to write this. Okay, let me write it. I don't know. Let
I
me
can
just
do
do it.
anything. That is
Exactly.
so awesome.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of how it started. I started Latin, and so at that time, obviously, it was difficult because I was a sophomore. At within 2 months of starting the club, I had 50 members of Latin
What?
Heat. Yes, which was competitive to the size of like the drill teams. And we got
Yes.
to perform at the pep rallies. I got approvals and all of this stuff. And so I was a sophomore leading seniors, leading juniors, freshmen, sophomores within my class. And so that's kind of where my leadership kind of,
That's
I don't know,
huge.
abilities started growing.
Wow. Was the drill team director kind of like, you know?
You know, yes and no. So I think she was definitely really upset when I quit drill team. And understandably so. I mean, I had won like the rookie awards during camp. Like
You're
I was
a
just
dancer.
very,
Like, I would hate
thank
to lose someone like
you.
you.
Yeah, I think it came from a place of like, dang it, we're losing someone who had the potential to be a leader on drill team,
Yeah.
so the cool story about that is, even though at first it was definitely probably competitive, just because I was creating this team that had all these members and we were getting to dance at the pep rallies and stuff, she definitely recognized my efforts, and to this day we have a really great relationship. And she's been someone who has been supportive of my dance career when I was with the Cowboys. And funny enough, my sister went to the same high school and became one of her captains, like one of her leaders.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
yeah, which is really cool. So she has a special spot, in my heart, my sisters, my families. And even though it was definitely awkward when I told her I'm leaving and I'm doing my own thing, um, she to this day like reaches out, and I've gotten to judge her auditions. I've gotten to do I've come to choreograph for her, so I am extremely grateful for that. But it is hard sometimes to kind of break away and do your own thing, and that's part of being a leader. Sometimes is kind of
Yeah.
having to go against the grain and do what feels right.
That takes so much guts, like not only to go against an adult in a whole entire organization, but to then lead a group of 50 people, including upperclassmen as an underclassman. I
Yes.
am like, I'm just imagining myself in your shoes, and I'm like, oh God, I would throw up. I wouldn't do it. I'd be too
I
scared.
know. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, there are days, as an adult, that things happen and I'm just like, "Ah, I don't know." And then I think back to 16-year-old me, and I'm like, that girl did not
You did not care.
care.
Yeah.
She was, so strong and just had a goal in her mind and went for it. And so I have to kind of remind myself, like, that girl is me. It's part of me.
I'm gonna
And
cry. Oh my God.
I know it's one of those things that motivates me, because sometimes, when you're at that age, you're growing into yourself and you're kind of figuring out what you're passionate about, what your voice is like. It can be scary, but I think it's also such a prime time to take those risks and those chances and to evolve and really learn. Like, looking back, are there moments that make me cringe and I'm like, I can't believe I did that as a leader, or whatever? Yes, but it was my time to learn. And flash forward to now, being in my 30s, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm helping lead a business, I'm doing all these other things. So take advantage of the time you have to really learn, get involved in teams and be a leader, because that's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah, moral of the story, kids, just go for it.
Yes.
Write the proposal, quit your dance team. I'm just kidding. Don't.
Don't quit your
I want
dance
to
team.
encourage you to quit your dance team, but
Don't quit your dance
I
teams.
think if you really feel like really on fire about something, you should go for it, because then you're probably gonna regret
Definitely.
it. Yeah.
I completely agree. And that's the thing, like, my sister is an amazing leader as well, right? She's just a different type of leader. And the best parts of her years in school was being on the drill team the whole time,
Yeah.
and I think that everybody's path is so different. So if you're someone that has that little itch, like maybe, I don't know, there's like a cultural thing. Like for me, it was Latin dancing, right? That I wanted to involve with the hip hop, which is why I think something inside of me kind of pushed me to that. But I mean, just being on a dance team, being on color guard, I mean, those things are experiences that I almost wish every kid could have, because I honestly wouldn't have known how to do Latin Heat if I didn't have that year on JV drill team, if I hadn't seen how other captains worked, if
Yeah.
I didn't have those 6 months on varsity drill team to see the structure, how did the leaders lead there? Like, I wouldn't have had any idea.
Yeah.
So even though I took a different path, that year and a half that I was in the drill team world was essential to my success doing my own thing.
For sure. And that's a really great point. So as an underclassman leading 50 kids, which is a lot, were you, first of all, were you the only person in the position of leadership?
So it was a little bit of it was different in the sense that I had an audition myself and kind of scouted out some people to be leaders with me.
Hmm.
So I chose to have, a couple of guys and a couple other girls to be help me with like choreography and to kind of help lead the team. However, as far as kind of creating the structure and leading rehearsals, all of that fell on me. So I really didn't have any support from kind of that leadership role. It
Yeah.
was really all on me, but I did have some great people helping me like with the sets of choreography and that kind of thing. And honestly, like we had an amazing sponsor from school. Her name is Miss Butcher, and she was um
Shout out.
just shout out to Miss Butcher, and I'm still friends with her this day. And she's like, "You can call me Rebecca," and I'm like, "No,
No,
like you're
it's
Miss
weird.
Butcher."
It's so weird.
Yeah,
I'm friends with
but
like band directors on Facebook and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't call
I
you by
can't do it.
your
I
name.
can't either. But she was like just the person that made it happen because we needed to have a sponsor and was so supportive. So her thing was, if this is something like you want to do, I'm gonna let you lead it. And if you ever need support, I'm here. And I think that was the coolest thing she could have done for me because it allowed me to just experiment and figure out how I was going to lead. And then when I ran into trouble, I could go to her and she was right there at our rehearsals, right? And could
Yeah.
help me. But yeah, most of it would kind of fell on me.
That's a huge responsibility. So, what what was your experience what was your experience like running rehearsals? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? What was challenging? What was easy?
So I think I had to just believe it.
Mm.
If that makes sense. I had
Yeah.
to just embody and just believe that this is my team and I am going to work really hard for it and I am going to just exude that confidence when I walk into this rehearsal. And so, it was weird because again, this is barely my sophomore year in high school, which high school is such a different place,
Yeah.
where you grow.
Yeah.
So I would walk in and just really I had to really be confident in myself.
Mhm.
And I know that's hard, but I kind of faked it till I could really feel it in there, right? And it just walked in, and I always had a structure to my rehearsals. So if I felt like I just followed that structure, then there was an expectation of everyone knew what rehearsal was going to be like. There was no surprises, right? So we'd come in, I'd do announcements like, hey guys, this is what we're working on today, kind of let them know. We'd warm up and we'd start and we would just go.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this, I mean, obviously it was an after school program. So kids had to want to stay there after school for
Yeah.
an hour or two. So we were all sacrificing time where we could be doing other things. And so I think that helped everyone kind of get on the same page. And I think too, just treating everyone as equal was
Hmm.
a big thing for me. And I think that goes with any team that you're leading. You lead by example. Like, I know that seems so cliche, but that is what I've lived by in everything I've done, whether it was Latin Heat, whether it was my street hip hop team that I was on, the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue, or now leading a private jet aviation company. Everything that I do, I lead by example,
Yeah.
because that's the only way that your team members can say, okay, she's telling me to meet these expectations, but dang, she's exceeding them, so I can see why the expectation is there for me. So I think that was the other thing, going back to your question, is how did you lead it? I had structure, believed in myself, had that confidence, and at the same time I did more than what I expected my team to do so that they could see it in person, that, hey, you can arrive to practice on time and early. You can arrive with your dances, just like in your mind, your memory should be there, all of that. And by doing that, I feel like that's part of being a leader, is showing the example so they will follow, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So in high school, did you ever struggle? Because we all know how high school can be. You got friendship issues, issues with romantic relationships. Sometimes you've got stuff going on at home. You got to maintain your grades. Did you ever feel a struggle kind of juggling any of those things?
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. I think honestly, if you don't feel that struggle, or like that, you may be suppressing it somehow or not acknowledging that it's there. I definitely did. Like, so my junior year, so I was already, a year into being doing Latin Heat. Um, my grandma, who helped raise me, was born, and she was there along with my mom and dad. She was really sick, and we just knew that she was going to pass away. And I actually got the news that she was in her last days while I was at Latin Heat rehearsal.
Mm,
That's when I got the text message saying, the hospice care people are here. We don't have much time.
yeah.
And so it is absolutely normal to be going through not only, personal changes within your mind, your body, relationships, friends, and also just regular life things like losing a family member can
Yeah.
happen. So I definitely struggled in the sense that I had to figure out, how do I balance, or how do I handle these things? So not everyone handles it the same, but for me, when I read that text message and got that news, the best thing I could do was keep a sense of structure and keep a sense of normalcy in my life. And I remember I had about 30 minutes left of my rehearsal, and I was like, I'm finishing my rehearsal. Like, I am going to stay here, and I'm going to stay focused in what I'm doing. Because again, I go back to structure. That's kind of what keeps me grounded, right?
Yeah.
And it may not be the right choice for everyone, but that's what kind of worked for me. And keeping that structure, staying there, finishing out my rehearsal, it allowed me to then go home and completely shut off from my Latin Heat responsibilities and just really focus on my family. And obviously, I missed some time at school after that, because of everything that happened. But I would just say, find what grounds you, and find what kind of helps you keep your composure in moments where you're struggling. So for me, it was structure, keeping my appointments, keeping things I needed to do. That is what made me feel right, even when things were going crazy on the outside. Latin Heat was kind of like my safe space. If I keep that going, if I keep it structured, if I stick with it, then I'll be able to focus on the other things when I'm not here.
Right. Yeah, I think nowadays the generation of kids who are going through high school and middle school right now, I don't know if this is something I was just blinded to when I was in high school. But I feel like the depression rate is so much higher now. So I think, you bring that up, that thing in your life that if you just focus on it and let it ground you and keep returning to it and keep it allowing the momentum of it to move you forward, it's going to help keep you out of falling into a funk, because you could have easily just dipped out and said, yeah, I can't handle this, it's just too much, there's too much going on. But you really leaned on that and allowed it to keep you going, which is really powerful.
Thank you. No, I appreciate you saying that. And, as you know, I think I've chatted with you about it before. I'm a huge, mental health awareness advocate. I actually, just to share something, a little side note on it, but also to the loss of my grandma, that was actually the first time that my parents and I obviously sought out help from a therapist for me. So at that age was my first time kind of going through that and having, a professional help me through that as well. And I think that was the healthiest thing I could have done for my entire life. Not just for that moment of losing my grandmother, but in general, to open up that dialogue of knowing that at times life gets tough. I honestly can't imagine what, kiddos and folks are going through right now, having to go to school in this scenario. The world is in such a scary place. And I just think those are resources that can help you so much. And I'm so glad my parents kind of helped me find that at that time. So just a shout out to, everyone going through hard times. Like, it's okay to raise your hand and say, I need a little bit of extra guidance. And that's what worked for me, was to, once the grandma passed and I knew that structure was the one thing that was kind of keeping me going, I still kind of felt that struggle you were talking about, trying to juggle a lot of things. And thankfully, I had open communication with my parents and they were able to get me the help I needed, and I was able to kind of go through. And now,
Yeah.
seeking help through a therapist is one of my resources, I call it. Whenever I feel myself kind of getting in a weird place, I think about my mental health and I reach out. So
Yeah.
yeah, just always keep that in mind too, for anyone who could be struggling, as that is something you can use.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's becoming more common these days, and there are more resources out there to help, which is great. I think therapists and counselors are so needed. People need to understand how to deal with their feelings in a healthy way. Because when you get to adulthood and
Absolutely.
you still don't know how to deal with that, it just gets rougher and rougher. I really
Exactly.
feel for those adults. Um, okay, so then so you did the Latin Heat thing. What was after high school?
Okay, so after high school, I went to Richland Community College to get started. So shout out to Dallas County Community
Mhm.
Colleges for
Yeah.
anyone who is thinking about doing that. I took that route, and I
I
loved it.
highly advocate for a community college, first of all. If any of you are listening and you really feel like you need to go to a four university, you really don't. Go if you can do your associates in high school through dual credit, do that
Do it. Like,
now.
trust me, people,
Yeah.
do it.
A 2 years of college you could get for free. Okay.
I
Stephanie.
know I have to give that. I was like, I have to give a shout out to community college because,
Yeah,
you
it's so
know,
underrated.
it really is. And for me, I mean, I graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas, right? So I went to UTD to get my degree, but to get those first couple years out of the way at community college was the best thing, because to be 100% honest with everyone watching this, it actually took me 3 years at Richland to figure out what I wanted to
And
do.
that's okay.
And that's okay. That's why community college is so great, because you can kind of test out different things. So I was actually part of the STEM program. I had a scholarship for, science and all of that, because I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And then I realized that, you have to work with rats and do a lot of other things that I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. So, so that's when I was like, maybe this isn't for me, and switched over to business. But point of that is that going to community college gave me the opportunity to try things out without, having to get into a lot of debt or have my parents, struggling or
Right.
any of that. I got to
Yeah.
really figure it out.
Meant
And
to
then
be
by the
an
time,
inexpensive experiment.
absolutely. So shout out to Richland. But I went to Richland, and of course, me didn't, for my PE credit, decided to do dance.
Yeah,
So
look.
took dance instead of my PE credits that I needed. And so went and did that. And sure enough, I end up getting scouted out by a guest choreographer. Her name's Stephanie, if anyone knows her kind of from
Oh,
the
the
pro
House
world.
Angels coach?
Yes, yes, she is the coach of the
Awesome.
Ice Angels, and she's also, I from what I see on social media, she's putting together a dance team for the Mavs as well. She's just always busy and doing amazing things. But yeah, so Stephanie was a guest choreographer, and she scouted me out, and she was like, I need you to stay after class today. And I was like, oh no, am I in trouble? And sure enough, she just wanted to talk to me and said, you have something about you. I think you should audition for my best friend's team, the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue. And I was just like, what? The Dallas Cowboys? Like me, little old me? I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. And so, long story short, she kind of took me under her wing and showed me how to properly audition for a professional team. I I honestly thank her for my entire pro dance team career,
Yeah.
because if it wouldn't have been for her believing in me and kind of taking me outside of class and saying, you have to do this, I don't know if I would have done it, because it does take courage to put yourself out there. Anyway, so she, shout out, love her. And she encouraged me to audition. So I auditioned for the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue. I was actually a few months under the age limit for auditioning, but
Mhm.
I made the cut just barely to be able to even go and audition. And yeah, so then at 2021 ish, I made it onto the team. So it was the first and only co-ed hip hop team of the NFL. And so amazing, I know, love them. And so I did that, and I was, rookie year, so kind of starting over, learning and just growing. Um, the cool thing about Rhythm and Blue is most years there's four captains.
Hmm.
And what the cool thing about that is, my rookie year, I got to learn a lot about leadership because I got to see four different personalities, four different people in leadership roles, their styles. And then, sure enough, my second year, I got the big surprise that I had been voted in to be a captain. So it was amazing. And so I, finished out the next 4 years on the team being a captain, and it was really cool. So I got to be a leader there, and I didn't quite finish my fifth season with them because I got promoted at work and all these things happened.
Life
But
happens.
then, and I moved to Boston. But the cool part was I was given the opportunity to still be involved with the team, and kind of became an assistant to the director, Jenny Durbin Smith, who's done an incredible job with the team. And so I was able to help in different areas and still be involved. So it was about 8 seasons from beginning to end that I was involved with the team, which was really cool.
That is a huge chunk of your life. That is amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That is so cool. I loved my auditioning experience, and I think if I weren't in the middle of officer camp and I had more time to dedicate to really memorizing, because that was like what kicked me out. Is I just had a memory lapse and I was like, oh crap.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think, looking back now, everything happens for a reason. I don't feel bitter about it at all, but I just really enjoyed that experience. I met
Oh,
so many
so
cool
good.
people, you being one of them.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
like, I love that. No,
Um,
it's awesome. The experience, and I think that's what Jenny does so well is she makes sure to make the audition process a positive experience for everyone,
yeah,
to where whether you make the team or not, you
right,
leave with a sense of accomplishment of what you achieved while you were there,
right.
and probably some new friends and a bunch of life lessons that you'll take with you. So the fact that I got to be around that for, almost 8 seasons is just a huge blessing, really, to be able to learn all of that.
Yeah. So what was it like? What was it like being, because were you captain the whole entire time once you were voted in?
After, yep, after my rookie year, so rookie year, you're just kind of in the grind of everything. But
Mhm.
after that, I was a captain. Um, it was probably one of the biggest learning experiences that has molded me into who I am today, to be a captain for that team. And again, going back to, I think there's two big things that I would say for anyone who is a leader that worked for me. Number one is lead by example, which I've mentioned. Is just, you have to embody the team member that you want them to be, so that they can really look at you and your actions speak for you, because saying you're a leader doesn't really work. It's
Right,
about, do your team members see you as that?
right.
And so, especially with Rhythm and Blue, where it was a voting type system where your teammates got to vote on if they who they think is the right fit for leadership, and then Jenny took those votes into consideration. um, it was so important to lead by example and embody all those things that you wanted. And if you were a captain, that didn't mean you were a captain the next year. You had to get re-voted in. So there was this consistent um, effort that a leader had to put in to make sure. So I would say that's number one, is leading by example. And number two is something that I learned along the way. So I have to admit, I wasn't always good at this. And now in my, in my leadership roles as an adult, I'm like, dang, yeah, I do that, is lead with care. So come from a place of care.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference, because especially on a professional team, it's easy to get caught into the rules and following everything, which is great. A leader should enforce those rules and make sure that everyone is abiding by them, but also having that sense of care in everything that you do,
Hmm.
and making sure that you truly are coming from a place of, I understand that mistakes can be made, but we have to remember our rules, right? Like, kind of having that in you as a leader, I think creates a sense of trust with your team members, and can be something that will actually get you probably what you want from your team a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
Than just strictly being an enforcer. And so that's something that I had to kind of navigate because I'm a huge rule follower. It's annoying, but I've always kind of like, if I have a set of rules, for a team or something, I'm like, hey, everyone has to do it. And so I was good at that, but I also needed to learn, hey, come from a place of care and people will listen to you a lot
For sure.
better. Um, so
Empathy.
yeah, those are kind of the two biggest things I would say for in any leadership role really is if you do it from a place of care and you're also doing it by, exuding all the things you want from a teammate, then it'll just all fall into place.
Yeah. Did you ever have to discipline your friends on the team? What was that like? If you
I
did.
did. I did.
That
And
must be so awkward.
it's so awkward. It really is. Like honestly, it's just it was probably the harder part of the gig was having to discipline people that you truly love and care about and you hang out with on the weekends. I mean, there's some people that were literally are still like family.
Yeah.
And I had to, if they forgot part of their uniform or chewing gum or they're late or whatever. But at the end of the day, what I had to remember is that we have to put the betterment of the team first where when we're in this professional team setting.
Yeah.
And if we all come from a place of, hey, we all worked really hard to get this position to be in this team, whether you're just a rookie or not even just a rookie, but whether you're a rookie, whether you're a vet, whether you're a leader, it doesn't matter. You worked hard to get here, right? So we need to think about how we all have to put an effort to put the team first because the legacy of this team lives on after we're long done and gone, right? And so I would kind of always try to say, hey, I get that this is awkward and that I'm having to discipline or correct you, but it's all for the betterment of the team, whether that be I'm correcting a dance move, it comes from a place of I'm trying to make you better.
Right.
And that's one thing that like I really liked about how Jenny ran the team is to just come from a place of gratitude when you get a correction.
Yeah.
So, one of the things we would do that's different from any other team I've personally seen in the industry is when you got a correction from anyone, the response was, thank you.
Always. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And I know it seems odd, and this was something that Jenny instilled in us literally from first rehearsal. This was her thing was you say thank you. And the reason is because whether they're disciplining you from like whatever, chewing gum, let's say, or if it's they're disciplining you in the sense of correcting a dance move, it comes from a place of wanting to make you better.
Yeah.
And I think that that is so good to just kind of have that mentality. Even just saying the word thank you, maybe deep down you're like, like I hate getting in trouble. Or like, or I could have sworn this dance move was the way I did it, or whatever. But just saying the words thank you when you get a correction, it like switches something in your mind and
It
just
opens you up. It makes you grateful. It makes it just kind of like I know exactly what you're talking about because it's one of those things like if you're into manifestation, you always have to be open and grateful for the things that you have in order to receive abundance. So whenever you are grateful for receiving feedback or a correction on a mistake that you made, you're opening yourself up to improvement. So I'm so glad that she taught you guys that. I learned that too in one of the color guard teams that I was on early on. Um, but
it's awesome.
I love that.
I
I think
love it.
everyone should take that on.
I think so too, because even today, like, I'm so far removed from the team, like that was years ago now. But that essence of when I get feedback in anything that I do, I still go to that place of I'm thankful that they told me this correction
Yeah.
because I can't get better if I don't receive that feedback. So I want to encourage that feedback so that I can be better. I can be my best self. So, going back to your original question of like dealing with disciplining friends, because we all put the team first, because we all thought about this thankful or gratitude kind of mindset, it did make it a lot easier. And I think that they understood that if I was getting on to them about something, it came from going back to my other answer, coming from a place of care. So,
Yeah. That's a really important one. I think when you're in high school it can be so hard to lose sight of that, especially, you know, it can be really easy to just, if your friend showed up late or if they're chewing gum wrong or if they're chewing gum, it can be so easy to just sweep them under the rug and act like you didn't see it. But it does such a huge disservice because people will see that and they will lose respect for
Yes,
you. And then the rest
exactly.
is not going to want you to return.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing, like how I kind of talked about leading by example, right? So, you want to set the tone that you are fair, that no matter who it is that's breaking the rule, right? Because obviously you're holding yourself accountable because you're leading by example. So you're following all the rules. So your expectation is that everyone else on this team will as well.
Right.
And so I think it's so important to have that in mind again, to be fair, to lead by that example of saying, this is my best friend since we were 2 years old, but she came in chewing gum. I'm going to go tell her. And honestly, I had one manager of mine tell me, like, if there's something that's kind of awkward, you have to flex that muscle. You have to keep doing it until it becomes something that you're comfortable with. And
Yeah.
then it becomes just an everyday thing,
Yeah.
So if from the first day you're a leader, you set that tone that no matter who it is, I'm going to be fair. By day 4, if it's your best friend or someone you've never met on the team walking in and chewing gum, no one is going to think it's weird that you're telling them to spit their gum out because you have set that tone from the beginning that you're going to be fair, right? So it's kind of just one of those things that, trust me on this, if you take the opposite route and kind of sweep things under the rug, it breeds distrust,
Mm-hmm.
and all kinds of negative things. And again, if we go back to putting the team first, the team comes first. Those rules come before any of the awkwardness that could be there when you're disciplining your friends. So you got to keep that mentality for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for kids to also, I keep calling them kids. You are young men and women.
I
um,
love
but
it.
you also have to watch your tone. You never have to yell at anybody or berate them. Just a simple, very straight to the point. Hey, can you spit out your gum? Because we're not supposed to chew that in rehearsal. That's all it takes. Just straight to the point. Leave your emotions out of it and move on.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. That I think I've had to kind of figure that out. But
Yeah.
going back to my Latin Heat days as a sophomore, telling seniors and upperclassmen, and I had to kind of figure out how to do that because it can be real easy to fall into the temptation of, hey, do this, to kind of embody that I'm the
Like
boss around here,
alpha.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it can actually harm the relationship you have with your team members. So come from a place of care, get the point across, be direct, get the point across, but in a nice, friendly, appropriate tone, and that will definitely be a lot. I think you'll be a lot more successful in getting your point across if you do it that way rather than using a negative tone or raising your voice, because then people shut off and then they're not going to listen to
Yeah,
you.
people don't really respond to that very well. But also on the other hand, you don't want to be like, hey, remember to spit out your gum. You do need that
Yes.
directness, but direct
Uh-huh.
does not
And
equal harsh or
I
boss.
agree.
Yeah,
I agree. The directness. And that's why I'm like, use a good tone to be direct.
yeah,
Because there were times I would say, just to be completely like honest with you guys, like there were times in Rhythm and Blue where, there was someone that I was like, dang, I gotta go tell them that they gotta put their hair down or whatever it was. And I'd be like, hey, so you know how Jenny went through the rules the other day? Like, I just want to remind you that. And then it's just,
and they don't take you
you know,
seriously because they're like,
yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
I had to figure that out too. It's like you can be sweet and can come from a place of care, but be direct, get to the point and say, hey, remember we don't chew gum in here. Let's just spit it out or whatever, but just say it nicely, respectfully, and move on. Because I did have trouble with that sometimes where I would just like, okay, let's talk about this. And it's like, she just needs to put her hair down. Like, it's really not,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be this elongated thing.
exactly. And that's why I'm a huge advocate for just leave your emotions out of it. It's just a fact of the matter is you got to leave your hair down. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Everyone else has to do it. So
Exactly. Yes. And I mean, being a leader is tough. And a lot of this stuff will come with confidence as you kind of work through it and you'll find your groove. But yeah, these are awesome tips that I wish that this kind of stuff was available back when I was little 16-year-old Latin Heat girl, trying to figure
yeah.
it out. So I'm so grateful that you're building out these resources for young men and women in leadership positions, because we're basically giving y'all all like the tips that took me years to figure out. So
Yeah, this is like a shortcut, jump
yeah.
straight to all of the life lessons we've learned. Yeah.
Definitely.
Um, I had a question on the tip of my tongue and then I forgot about it. But
Shoot.
um,
Think about
I
it. Think
think
about it.
I think pregnancy really just does a number to. I oftentimes I'll be in the middle of something, like saying something, and then I'll forget what I was saying. It is the worst.
Okay,
But
well, let's see. What were we talking about?
well, anyway, I think we were talking about discipline. Did you ever oh, I remember the confidence. Okay, so if you're a brand new leader, for example, you earn the spot as a sophomore on your team, but you don't feel necessarily convinced that you either deserve it or that you just don't feel like the position that you've earned it or something. It just doesn't feel equivalent. How would you said fake it till you make it. Can you tell us more about kind of that confidence factor? How do you find that?
Yeah. So, you could assume when I say fake it till you make it, I mean just walking in, and just kind of embracing it. But for me, when I didn't necessarily know how to just be it and just kind of just know, like nowadays I can walk into an executive meeting and I can flow with what I need to say. I can, okay, I need to get this point across. I can
Yeah.
walk into a meeting, I'm confident, I lead the team, and we're done, right? But when I was still starting out, if you're still kind of like, oh, I don't even know if I should be in this room or if I should be a leader, I would say be prepared.
Hmm.
So do the things that you can do to help you feel that way when you get into that scenario of being in front of your whole drill team or whatever it is to speak. If you're not quite there of feeling it yet, then do your homework so that the things that you can control are controlled. Does that make sense? There's certain things you can't, like how you're going to feel, you can't really control, or you may not necessarily feel like you fit that role yet. But what you can prepare and can control are what you're going to say, for example, or what the vibe's going to be. So I kind of always rely back on that structure thing I talked about. So if you're in a leadership role as a sophomore and you're still kind of figuring it out, get with the other captains and see, hey, what's the game plan for today? What can I do to help lead? Or kind of have that idea of what am I in charge of? So whether that be, okay, Kristen's going to handle warm-ups today. What do I do so that I can embody that leadership type of I guess energy or vibe when I walk in the room? Is I know what my warm-up's going to be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to walk up there and I'm prepared. I have my music ready. I have my warm-up ready, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And I lead them with stretching or whatever. And so just in that, just in being prepared and knowing what you're going to say, knowing what your warm-up's going to be, what your music, what you're going to wear when you go up there, all of that starts to create that embodiment and energy of being a leader, because you just go and you're just prepared. So if you're not quite there of really feeling it yet, fake it till you make it by being prepared and knowing what you're going to do, knowing whatever it is that maybe you're assigned to. If you're like, I remember in drill team there was certain leaders that were in charge of checking people's what is it, kind of like their outfit for the day,
Yeah.
right, for demerits and that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So if that was my role and I know that and I'm not quite feeling the leadership role yet, I would make sure to review what are the rules. Am I confident in knowing what the rules are for the outfit, so that when I walk up, I'm not kind of like, well, I think she's allowed to wear those
And also,
earrings.
not only that, but being prepared on how you are going to handle it. Have like some kind of practice script in your, how are you going to address that? Because when the pedal goes to the metal, that's when you really need to be prepared.
Oh, for sure. I mean, what happens if you tell someone like, "Hey, we're not supposed to be wearing those earrings today or whatever," and the person's like, "Yeah, we are. I know I'm allowed to."
Right.
Are you gonna freeze because you
And
didn't
you
really
can say,
prepare what to say? Yeah.
right.
So that'd
Yeah.
be my tip on that.
Yeah. This is making me think of so many different other things that I need to talk about in separate videos. So
Okay, I
this is
love it.
great. Yeah, there's so many things you need to do to prepare, like you need to know how to teach, you need to know how to clean, you need to know how to lead a warm up. Because even when I watch my students, I'm kind of going on a separate tangent, but even
That's
when I
okay.
watch my students, I have them do a lot. Just because I feel like I personally come from a place where I want to be able to let you run everything and I can just stand back and let you do your thing because you're old
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, that's how Miss Butcher was, and it was
Yeah.
the best thing she could have done for me. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, there's so many benefits to it. But ultimately, what I have come to learn is just that a lot of kids don't know how to teach or clean. And a lot of times that's kind of what we directors just need the most. We need you to have our eyeballs and know how to fix it. Did you know how to clean as a 16-year-old in Latin? Like, how
So
did you learn that?
that's a good question. So whenever I was in JV drill team, we had, I think it was 5 captains at the time, and that was kind of my first exposure into cleaning, right? And what that
Yeah.
meant, polishing a dance and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. So I picked up on a lot of things. I was kind of just kind of like a learner, right? I was just kind
Yeah.
of like a sponge, just kind
Yeah.
of got all of that. And then when I had my 6 months in varsity drill team, again, I picked up on little things. And so what I did, I know this is kind of like different, not everyone's going to have this scenario, but I practiced my cleaning stuff with my street hip hop team,
Oh,
because the street hip hop team, FLS, we were competing against people who had no idea what cleaning, polishing, 8 counts, because it was such a street type style.
right. Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of my secret weapon, is I practiced it a lot outside of school. And then when Latin Heat came to be, oh, I was kind of a pro at it already by like
Mhm.
17, 16, 17. I was already kind of like, okay, I see, I can visually, like what I used to do, and I even did it on the Cowboys too, is like I kind of would just look above the team
Yeah.
and would notice when lines were off and
Yep.
certain things. And so just little things that you learn along the way. So I would say I was definitely not a pro when I started, and I learned from other good leaders.
Mhm.
So, I think going, if you know that you're going to be in a leadership or going to try to be in a leadership position, I would take dance classes, look at how different teachers handle cleaning different things, because that's the best way, is to kind of get your own style on that, is by taking classes. There's no way that freshman me, who had never been on a drill team before, could have gone up there and polished a team. I wouldn't have even known where to start.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's a big, big ask, you know? But that is a really huge pro tip that you could take away from this conversation if you're listening, if anything. I mean, obviously, there are lots of great little golden nuggets in there, but that's a huge one. If you don't know how to clean, just kind of gaze your eyes above everybody's head so you can kind of, everything should kind of look fuzzy almost. Or
uh-huh,
like
yes,
everything
and then
should
you'll
happen,
see.
yeah, in the lower periphery, and then you kind of just see everything, and then you notice what stands out because it's not together. It's a great hack.
I love that.
Yes.
And I'll give you one more, because this one always
Yes,
bothers me. Like
please.
whenever I judge teams and things, is feet, your feet and your placement of your feet is a big deal. Like,
Mhm.
and the cool thing was Jenny was really big on this, and I still to this day when I watch Rhythm and Blue videos, I'm like, yeah, because they still like are so good about it. It's just, if your feet are supposed to be together, that means they're touching. That means I can't even swipe my credit card through your feet, right? And if they're supposed to be shoulder width apart, they're shoulder width apart, not a little bit less or a little bit more. And
Very
you'd be
specific.
surprised, like just like how I would do the thing where I looked above.
Mhm.
Sometimes I would literally sit down on the floor and I'm only looking at the feet.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised on by if there's a count where you're supposed to be together. If you guys get that, there will be moments in the routine that look so much better and
Yes.
everything else will fall into place. So
Yeah.
just like you're kind of doing the above thing, look to the ground level, ignore everything above the knee and look at that. And that was another way what I think that really helps teams stand out from the rest.
Yes, that's a good one. I love it. I think, do you know Luis Anzualda?
Yes, I do. He was on the team with me.
Oh my God, I forgot he did that. That's right. That's true.
Yeah.
Also a good buddy of mine. We did the neighborhood together. But he said something, and I'll have to ask him just to make sure I'm getting this right. But he said something about like all your head, your hand, like your joints, I guess, your head, your hands, your knees, and your feet. Those are kind of like the key little points that you should be looking at when cleaning. I'll have to clarify with him.
Honestly, that sounds about right because that's literally like even like directionally. It's funny like the questions you'll get like once you have a bunch of professional like pro team dancers in a room because they're like okay is my what's the word like is my is
Focus.
my focus is
Yeah.
my focus to the front of the room or am I looking to the diagonal or
Yeah.
whatever because and it's just like the funny questions you get because you're not just kind of going through it but I get it. It's because if your focus is to the front and you're doing something here it creates a certain line, right? Or
Yep.
it does my focus go with me.
Yep.
That's a whole different,
A different.
so
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Head, I would think your head, your hands, your knees, like all the little places where your joints are, line them up, and
Mhm.
especially in drill team, it's so fun to clean drill teams, in my opinion, because when it gets
When it's
that
clean,
crisp,
yeah,
whoop,
it's the power of precision, girl. There's
yes.
something about it. It's like it's really satisfying, I guess, would be for lack of a better word.
Yeah, satisfying. Yes, for sure.
I love cleaning too. I think it's kind of weird. I don't know how many people like to clean. Do you like to
Oh
clean?
no. I love that's a weird thing for me. I love to clean. Like I literally, I know this probably sounds bad, but I'll see like a team or like something on like Instagram or on social media. I'm like, dang, I wonder if I reached out and was like, can I just come clean y'all? Like, would they let me? Is that offensive? Like, I just like I love doing that. And that was kind of one of the big roles in like rhythm and blue as a leader. You had to clean the routines. We kind of would do like a pre-clean before Jenny would come in and like
Oh,
really get us looking
yeah.
good. But it was our job to get us as close to perfect as we could before she'd come in. And so it was like I literally would try my best to like I don't want her to see anything when she comes in. So I was like, oh, just really focused on that.
Yes. I love that. That is so cool. What advice would you have for people who want to do pro league?
Ooh, okay. Um, Gosh, that could be a whole segment in itself.
Yeah,
But
like give me some quick
to
little.
sum it up, I think if your intention is truly to audition for a pro league team, I still have people reach out to me. I feel like I'm so old, so far removed from it, but I still have folks who reach out and say, hey, help me make this team. My biggest advice is do your homework on the specific team that you want to go for. You'd be surprised how many people showed up to like rhythm and blue auditions with like jazz shoes on. And I'm like, shoot, they didn't do their homework. Like, this is a hip hop based team. Like, yes, you can have jazz for your solo and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but obviously the audition routine was going to be hip hop, right?
Right.
Do your homework on your team and set that intention of why is this the team that you truly want to be on? Whether that be do your homework on who is their hair sponsor, who does their makeup, what does their squad photo look like, what tricks do they do or what's their signature moves that I could start learning before I get to the audition. Do I have footage or pictures from previous year auditions? What do people usually wear to go there? Do I know anyone who's been on the team that I could reach out to get kind of a first person perspective on the audition process? Like, do your homework, treat it just as if you were to treat a job interview. I would never show up to a job interview without knowing the history of the company I'm going to work for or what their company culture is like, right? Because I'm about to be a part of it, hopefully, right? So Same with the team. If you want to be a part of the team, learn about what's their culture like, what is their history, where did this start, where did it come from? Because if you read about it and you become even more in tune with what they're about, then you will be so much more prepared when you show up to that audition for the judges to say, dang, this person could be on this team today. Like they embody what this team is about today.
Yeah.
Like, are you, I've heard this term so much in auditions, like, is this person uniform ready? Could we give you a uniform today?
Yeah.
And that even applies to drill team too. Whether you're in the pro leagues or you're in drill team, like, could I be in that drill team uniform today? Do I embody what this team is about? Do I know what their typical dances are like? So do your homework, set the intention, and go for it wholeheartedly, knowing that you are the right fit for that team.
Yes. That's a good one. And it's so interesting because like you can do your homework, but there's so many little things that, especially if you don't have an in and know somebody on the team. Like I didn't know about the Nike thing until after the fact. Like they were, yeah, you can't have any if you can't have your logo
Yes.
showing unless it's a Nike logo. So I was like, oh,
Yeah, it's stuff like that, and I don't be shy. Like honestly, like I can't tell you the amount of people that I have never met in my entire life who message me on Instagram and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about auditioning and I remember you were on it. Can we chat?" And honestly, most people I'd feel pretty confident saying most people are going to be excited to relive those years and be like, "Yes, let me help you," and tell you what they can. So even if you don't have someone that you necessarily know, or even better, you can even reach out to someone who's currently on the team, because they're definitely going to want to help some good folks come audition. So don't be afraid to reach out to people and get them involved in your journey. They'll be able to give you
yeah.
some.
That's a really great point. I didn't think to do that. And I think it's because I don't know, when you never know what people's personalities are like, especially when everyone is so beautiful and their hair always looks good and their makeup and they have really great bodies. We never know what we're going to get, so that can be really intimidating to reach out to somebody. But what do you have to lose?
Nothing,
What do you
nothing.
have to lose?
And shout out to anyone who's wanting to do that. I'm always here. Like you guys can come to me if there's something that I can offer, I will try my best.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're always gonna see, and it is kind of scary to reach out to someone you don't know. But what's the worst thing that can happen? They don't
They're
they
mean to
don't see
you.
it. They don't respond. And if they're
Yeah.
mean to you, then maybe that's not the team you want to be a part of. If
Yeah.
someone, if you, let's say you reach out to someone and you think that this is your dream team and they come back and they're not very nice or kind, then you may want to double check if that's the team culture you want to be a part of. So take it as a learning experience, and don't let that stop you from reaching out for some tips.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And that will apply to my color guard folk too, who want you have a dream team you aspire to be on. I know you guys follow a lot of the team members on Instagram, or it's with Instagram now and Twitter, it's really easy to find connections. You just have to be brave enough to slide into their DMs.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I've built up some pretty cool friendships, people I've never met in person, but that need some help. Or there's been times too where I've had people reach out with questions, and there were specific questions that I just don't know anymore because I haven't been involved with the team in 3 years now. And so at that point, I know current members and I'm like, hey, so and so, I have someone who wants to audition. Can I connect y'all? So there's going to be that some of that too, where they may pass you along to someone who's better fit to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any closing advice for our viewers slash list our audience?
I just would encourage everyone to give it a try. Whatever it is that you are wanting to do, you don't lose anything by giving it a try, whether that's auditioning to be a leader on a team that you're on, right? Auditioning to be on a team, whether that's a drill team, pro league, whatever it is, give it a try. There are so many things that we can learn just from the process of trying something new. And if you're a leader, my parting words are the two biggest things that I wanted to share with y'all, which is lead by example and come from a place of care. And your teammates will follow, I promise. Because leadership is not a title; it's more of who you are as a person and who you embody, and it's all about your actions. Your actions speak louder than a title. And if you are a solid team member who comes from a place of care and leads by example, everyone will look to you as the true leader of this team, whether you have that title or not.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Where can people find you if they want to follow you and ask these questions?
Oh, absolutely. So the best place to follow me is on Instagram, because I check my DMs for random collaborations and all kinds of fun things. So if you have an Instagram, you can follow me. So my name is Christen, but a lot of my friends call me X10. So the little handle is at XTENLOVESYOU. So X10 loves you. And that's kind of just a little nickname that stuck with me forever. So I just kind of kept it. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, follow me or ask whatever it is that you need. And if I'm not able to help you, I'll find someone who's better fit. But I'd love to help anyone who's looking to further their dancing or leadership skills or any of that.
Yay. Thanks for
Awesome.
spending
Thank
time
you.
with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun. This was awesome. I'm so excited to see all the cool things that come out of your YouTube channel and your Instagram. And I'm just so happy for you and grateful to be part of this journey with you.
I'm grateful to have you here
Love it.
so
Okay, sending
much.
you lots of love.
Yes. So, you guys, if this was helpful for you, make sure that you share it with a buddy because I'm sure somebody else out there that you know could probably use this information. Share with them, and then just make sure you subscribe if you want to continue to receive content like this. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.